got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems. I solve them. I run through the money. The pressure be calling. Left on my blessings. I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back. Tell me I'm garbage. I'm going through something. That's why I ain't calling. Phone and progression is all that I wanted. The phone and affection. I summon and dub it. Cause I got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems. I solve them. I run through them.
Welcome back to another episode of the Problems on Problems podcast. I am your host, Mike Santi. And today we're gonna talk about college. Let's take a pause to understand that Mike just did a whole intro without saying I don't know. But intro done. That being said, we're gonna talk about college. A place for growth, a place to find your young self, a place for networking, a place for regrets, a place to make mistakes. I don't know where we're going with this. A place for graduating. Probably the most important part about college. If you're going to go, spend the money. Get that really expensive receipt. All right, that diploma that doesn't really mean anything. Are we going to start a side tangent that early in the episode? We're going to do it. Roll a side tangent music. I will say this. I think if you're going to go to college, go for the right reasons. Do not go thinking that you're going to secure a job or anything like that, unless it's a pre-professional degree or something like a fast track into a career. But don't just go to go. I personally don't think that the college experience is worth all the debt that you incur. I went for other reasons. We'll talk about those later. I think there's too much weight on a college degree that really just shows jobs that you could put up with BS for 4+ years of your life. Because honestly, you learn and are trained on most things work-wise. I'm living proof of that, considering that the career that I'm in now has nothing to do with what I went to school for, because you can just learn it as you go. Don't worry about college. It's hella expensive, and don't feel like you need to go. All right. If you're going, go for yourself, go for the right reasons. Don't go because your parents say you have to go. Don't go because you think it's going to lead to some form of success, because studies show time and time again that it does not correlate to success. So you don't really actually need it, in my opinion. Okay. But back to the subject at hand. Mike went to college, and some of it for sports, some of it for school. We don't need to get into details, but if I were to give you a brief history of Mike's college experience, it probably starts off in high school, where I was getting credit hours for, 6 credit hours, 2 semesters worth of English at the time. Shout out to SUNY Albany for giving me those credits. Thank you. Belport High School, technically it starts there. Then we go to NC State, where Mike spends a year there. He transfers to, for a different story, he transfers to Curry College in Milton, Massachusetts. And then he transfers to where he ends up graduating. Spends 2.5 years there, graduates, and goes on with his life, kind of thing. So you would think all that transferring, all that stuff, you'll probably lose some credit hours here and there. If you're transferring that many times, you're probably losing a lot of credit hours. And in reality, I didn't lose too much. I think it's mainly because I stuck to the gen eds, or at least getting my grades up and focusing on courses that would transfer over, knowing that I wasn't going to stay at Curry College. I knew I wasn't going to graduate from there. I knew I wasn't going to stay there. It was like an in-between school for me. So I knew that I just had to focus on getting my GPA up, and then I'd peace out. And so we go to this final school, which I've left nameless for information protection purposes. I get there, everything's on track. We're staying, we're going through classes, getting all these credit hours. And I meet with my advisor probably late spring semester, early fall semester of 2013, which, well, that's not true. Yeah. Spring 13, fall 13. That's what I meant to say, which that was the year that I was supposed to graduate. And supposed to graduate is really just like the idea that, hey, it should only take you like 4-ish years to amass these credit hours to graduate. I wasn't in any crazy like program. kinesiology with a concentration in sports med. And so, yeah, get those credit hours, move on. So I'm meeting with my advisor, and we're talking about how I could still walk for graduation in December 13, which is, in my eyes, I'm like, that's amazing. That's only a semester behind. I will take that. But there are some caveats, in the sense that there was a possibility that I was going to have to come back for like a winter class or something like that. I didn't have that many credit hours left to graduate, where it was close enough where there was some talk about like waiving credit hours, using electives, because mainly the credit hours that I had left were honestly elective credit hours. There was one in there that was like a language, but I had placed out at another university, so I kind of talked my way into them using that to suffice or to satisfy that requirement, which, mind you, kinesiology major, why is there a language requirement? But we move on. It's to get a bunch of money. And so when I left that meeting, I knew, hey, you're going to walk, you're going to graduate, and that you, as long as you can either take a winter course that replaces that elective, or if you can appeal this decision a little bit higher up to get this waived, or if you just press on the advisor and they'll help you get it waived, you're going to be good to go. You're going to walk, you're going to graduate, you're going to get a diploma, all that stuff, only a semester late. So why wouldn't I take that? For a lot of reasons. But yeah, so fast forward to December of 2013, your boy's out here graduating, cap and gown, all that jazz, which is another story in itself, because my youngest brother had, like, on the way down to graduation, had all the asthma attacks, where, yeah, that happened. So yeah, graduate, everything's groovy. I already had a job while in school that I was going to continue after graduation, so that part was fine. And so Mike's living life. He's working, he's dating, I get married, I moved to Charlotte, I got a new job down in Charlotte, and I had about a 2-week buffer from the time that I moved down to Charlotte to when I actually started. My then wife did not have such a buffer. Like, literally moved in that weekend, she started that Monday. And so that's groovy. I said that too many times this episode. You know the vibes. And so I'm fine. I'm living it up, doing my thing. I don't think anything's wrong. Then the company that I'm about to start working for calls me. And they say they have bad news. That they cannot find my name. Or you and... I almost said words from. They couldn't find my name, or the university that I graduated from no longer had my name on the graduation list. And so they needed proof that I graduated, because why hire me if it was contingent upon my graduation? And so, because number one, Mike ain't no fraud, and number two, I def graduated, I was like, sure, let me fix this. Nice. But yeah, I was like, I will fix the situation. We will take care of this like adults do. I emailed the registrar's office. They email me back and they're like, nah, bro, you walked, but you didn't graduate. And I was like, what do you mean? I thought we settled this. I thought the credit hours that I needed were done and all that stuff. And there's a very specific point in their graduation process where I think it's in bold now because of me. I don't want to take all that credit, but you know. But it says participation in commencement does not assume graduation. The only issue is that I wasn't assuming graduation based off of my participation in commencement. I was assuming graduation on the meeting that I had with my advisor that said, hey, this will get taken care of. And so we're emailing the head of my college, we're emailing the assistant registrar, my advisor at the time, gone, surprise. But yeah, so we're going back and forth. And luckily enough, I had a good enough relationship with the head of that college, who had taught a few of my last year classes. Yeah, my senior year level classes, if you want to call it that, where we had this email dialogue, because, you know, everything in writing now. But literally just back and forth going through there where I said, hey, I've got this credit from this university. I've got this. And we're talking about like maybe max 6 credit hours that were a language and an elective. And so we got to a point where the head of that college was willing to write off or waive the 6 credit hours needed to satisfy the graduation requirements, because even they saw that like it was kind of BS. And mind you, at this point in time, 2.5, almost 3 years have passed since that date, where I think everybody involved was just kind of like, hey, let's just finish the process. Why drag this on for any longer than it needs to? So as far as I know, everything's good to go. I don't have to worry about anything like that. Registrar says, hey, we received the email. I had to send in another form, had to ask for like some information that I no longer had because I didn't go to the university anymore. But yeah, so all in all, Mike thinks, hey, problem solved. All the emails that I see, everything says problem solved. I'm good to go. And here's where I definitely made mistake number 2. You would think after the first time that I'd follow up on this, but really I didn't care. I just needed proof of graduation or all that stuff to start working, because to me, as I stumble over words that I probably should have learned in college, or learned how to speak. But for me, I didn't really care about the diploma or anything like that. To me, it was a piece of paper, whatever, like cool. It did not mean anything to me. And so I just didn't follow up with it. I knew that work or the job that I was going to start, they had the proof that they needed so that I could start employment there, and that we never talked about it ever again. I had since left that job. Fast forward a couple more, I guess more life gaps. I'd started a new career, started working for a different enterprise and a different company, enterprise, whatever you want to call it. They're big. But yeah, everything was good to go. I didn't have to worry about much. Even so, the last job that had hired me, never once did an issue with graduation or anything like that come up. I don't know if it was a different background system. I don't know if I was far enough out of college or removed maybe from college that their background checks didn't really care about that. They just cared about like work experience. So we kind of moved on, never really thought about it, anything like that. Fast forward to recently, we'll say circa 2019-ish, like late 2013, where Mike begins doing some stuff, getting involved with an organization that I knew going into it, and everyone else involved knew, you needed proof of graduation to be a part of this organization. Not anything crazy. There are a lot of organizations out there that require that. But yeah, nothing too crazy. So I think, hey, easy peasy. Let me hit up the university. And I email them and I say, hey, man, I just need a copy of my transcripts. Or, now that I think of it, never got that diploma that we talked about. Could I get that? And of course, a whole new set of employees and everything like that. They emailed me. They said, hey, we have you in the system as meeting all the requirements to graduate and meeting all the credits. We just don't have an official graduation application for you at all on our files. And I said, well, you should. It would have been in 2013. And that's what it is. This happened early 2020, pre-COVID. And so I was like, well, that's not possible because like 2013 happened. We went through this whole thing again in like 2015. Like it's got to be on there. Like most repository systems, graduation applications are not kept for no longer than 7 years. Or they're not kept. I don't know how to phrase this. Their repository like archive only lasted 6 years, and your boy was at year 7, and they didn't have one on file. And of course, we have an issue with that. But the best that they could do for Mike was say, hey, we'll send you a pre-filled graduation application. All you have to do is either e-sign it, sign it and fax it back to us, scan it back to us, anything like that. We just need a signature from you on a graduation application, and we can get this thing processed. The only issue is going to be that your degree will no longer say, and you in our system will no longer say like fall 2013. It will say spring of 2020. So instead of my initial diploma that would have said, had I done everything the correct way, it would have said December 2013. It now has, and what I could forevermore claim, it has May 8th, 2020. I've got it. It's in my possession. I never have to worry about it ever again. I get to somewhat claim that I graduated during COVID. So props to me. But also, yeah, don't follow up on things, people. Don't let what would have been probably like a maybe month-long process, don't let that turn into 7 years where it only delays things significantly, especially if it delays things right before a pandemic happens. All right. But with that, we'll take a quick break, reset everything, and then kind of do what we always do on Fridays. Hit them with the POP. And we're back. I'm back. My stomach's making noises, so let's get this show wrapped up. With the first part being our great debate, Friday food debate, a little bit of both. We'll call it the great debate for now. That way we can go in either direction. But last week we talked about a lot. But the poll that we sent out last week was, can guys and girls be just friends? And 78% of you said yes. What my DM said were a little bit different in the fact that a lot of you said yes, but a lot of you said it depends. Of course it depends. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of nuance that goes kind of into friendships. But I think overall, we can at least say that 78% of you agreed that yes, boundaries can be set, communication can be had, trust can be there, where guys and girls can be just friends. Whether they can be BFFs got into a different argument, but we're not going to talk about that this week. This week, we're going to talk about some fuck shit, and that is brownies. Edges or centers. I guess you can call it, there's really only one center. Everything else is an edge, unless you have like a giant baking sheet, but in which case, don't. But yeah, I know for me, your boy is out here, thick boy for life. You don't get this big by saying no to food, so I'll take edges, centers, whatever it is. If it's a brownie, it's going down. But yes, we move on to the Friday follows. And this week is a little bit different because I don't have an individual, mainly because I have individuals in the sense that I've got couples killing the game out here that need the shout out. I need to give them the shout out. Not because they need it or anything like that, but because they deserve it. The first one being Alexander South NC, photography company run by Alex and Mallory, doing bits when it comes to weddings, events, engagements, all that jazz. And Alex kills it when it comes to Charlotte Skyline stuff. Not even Skyline, just Charlotte pictures. Make sure to go follow them at Alexander South NC on Instagram. And the next couple, Sabrina and Greg, who you may know from Uptown Yoke, but they also own Leah and Louise, which has been named by Esquire as the #2 restaurant in America. So whatever you want to do, celebrate, do all that stuff, fireworks, air horns, that jazz, but they deserve it. It is a great place over at Camp North End. I cannot say enough good things about it. If you're in Charlotte, check them out. Check out that artwork from Alexander South NC. Check out the food from Leah and Louise. Have yourself a time in Charlotte, people. There are too many talented people and enterprises and companies around here for y'all to just be chilling at home. Unless that's your thing, and in which case, you're an adult, do whatever you want. But with that, guys, don't forget to follow the Problems on Problems podcast on Instagram, at problems_pod on Twitter. Your boy, follow me, at Mike Santi18 on all social media. And like I always say, guys, if it's not a good time, hope it's a good story, and I will talk to you next week. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Came through dripping Aquafina, I'm sipping 15, kept a weapon on me. Blow make bitches, I'm on my business, stack chicken like what it's gon' be. Crew in the cut, hey, you want us, red run when I tell a peace. Love is love. adios. Love is love. Love is love. Adios. Love is love. Love is